Disney's Snow White, a total disaster. I might be saying something controversial here, but hey, America finally listened to Rachel Zegler. In this clip from the 2024 election, Zegler outright says she doesn't need our money. Go vote blue. And if you disagree, just hit the unfollow button. I don't need your business. Well, guess what? The country took that very seriously. And to really drive the point home, let's look at the numbers. It's 7:30 p.m. It's a Saturday night, prime time for a major movie release. A $300 million Disney tentpole like Snow White should be packing theaters, right? Wrong. 0 tickets sold, not even one. Even the handicap seats? Empty. The very audience that should be lining up to see Snow White, nowhere to be found. And why? Rachel Zegler's controversial comments have resurfaced, and it looks like people took her words to heart. Now, there is a silver lining for Disney. They were smart enough to ensure Zegler would never speak to a camera again. First gear. Accomplished. No more viral clips of her telling people not to give Disney their money. But let's be honest, this disaster isn't just on Rachel Zegler. Now let's talk about the critics. They'll get their chance to weigh in soon enough, but there's already a red flag. Disney has placed an embargo on reviews. That's a common industry tactic, meaning critics who got early access to the film had to agree to keep their opinions under wraps for now. And that's never a good sign. No one is watching Snow White until the studio allows it. Usually they're sent a watermarked copy of the film, and once the embargo lifts, they can release their critiques. But here's the interesting part. The embargo for Snow White lifts just one day before the movie comes out. That means critics can only start posting their reviews right before audiences get to see it. Now let me just say this. This isn't how things work when you have a winning movie. If a studio is confident in a film, say something like Top Gun: Maverick, they want critics hyping it up early. They let reviews drop weeks in advance because they know word of mouth will bring audiences in. But with Snow White, this kind of last-minute embargo says everything. When a studio really believes in a movie, they lift the review embargo way ahead. Critics destroy the movie, 43% on Rotten Tomatoes of the time, sometimes a full month before release, so that way critics can start hyping it up. Wow, this has a 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's the next big blockbuster. That's how you build momentum. That's how you create buzz. And let's be honest, some movies are pure critic bait. Sometimes the critics and the audience agree. Other times, not so much. But this, ladies and gentlemen, we didn't think it would be this bad. Look at this. Was this where you thought Snow White would end up? 45% on the tomatometer? And remember, that's with the hand-picked critics. The ones getting the VIP treatment. Swag bags, free tickets to Disneyland, probably even a set of Mickey Mouse ears. Disney awful CGI and woke agenda, ruined the remake, pulled out all the stops to keep them happy, and yet even they couldn't save this film. How bad is it? Well, let's dive into the live Rotten Tomatoes critics' reviews. One critic sums it up perfectly with an uneven combination of forgettable music, bland choreography, and a few bright spots that can't carry the weight of the film. Snow White stumbles more than it soars, and that's just the beginning. Genuine laughs, Snow White barely manages to keep its footing. This is a film that tries so hard to avoid risks that it ends up pretending risks don't even exist. The result is a messy mix of awful CGI, forced new songs, and a plot that's both empty and uninspired. One critic summed it up perfectly. This reimagining of a story everyone knows lacks imagination. Essentially, Disney's last-minute review embargo raises red flags, translating to a solid text with the least possible creativity and depth, and the biggest flaws. The awkward recreation of animated material. It just doesn't work. The lighting of that permanent magic hour is hard to look at for the dwarves. Disney made the bizarre choice to cartoonize them alongside human actors. It's distracting and problematic. Even top critics are calling it a fascinating case study in today's impossible contradictions. a magic mirror reflecting the tensions of current times. This Snow White is not the fairest of them all. It's just fair to say some reviews are trying to put a positive spin on things, while it's a magically mixed bag. Most of Gal Gadot's evil queen can't save this movie. It works wonderfully, says one fresh reviewer. Okay, fine. But for every one of those, there's another like this. Aside from Rachel Zegler's powerhouse performance, there's little else to enjoy from this clumsy, poorly conceived, and cynical live-action Disney remake. Even Gadot's hilariously bad line reads aren't worth the trip to the theater, and then there's this surprisingly underwhelming live-action interpretation of the classic cartoon that feels more like an unfunny, overlong, pre-recorded SNL skit than something we'd call magical. Woof, that's rough. And yet suddenly my timeline is flooded with positive reviews all praising Rachel Zegler. Not suspicious at all. Fans boycott. Snow White faces major backlash. It's painfully obvious. Disney has launched an operation to flood the internet with fake Snow White reviews. I don't know if your timeline looked like mine this past week, but that's exactly what they were doing. Diabolical. And yet, despite all the manufactured hype, here's the reality. Mirror on the wall. Who's the laziest of them all? That it be Disney is a creatively starved studio that seems to have lost all ability or even the desire to make new hits. Instead, they keep digging through their back catalog, desperate to squeeze more money out of old classics. This time they've gone back to Snow White, their groundbreaking 1937 full-length animated feature, and the result is a timeless, beautifully animated classic that has been stripped of its charm and reassembled into yet another awkward Disney. Sends Rachel Zegler away for damage control. Pointless live-action automaton, one that disappears from your memory the second the credits roll. Let's be real. Trying to modernize the lovable retro Snow White was a dopey idea from the start. And while the execution isn't completely terrible, the formulaic update is downright sleepy. I can already hear the emails calling me grumpy, but let's be honest, the original Snow White was charming in its simplicity. It was a sweet, wholesome fairy tale full of music, household chores, and joyful dancing. For 2025, however, director Mark Webb and writer Greta Gerwig, because of course, decided to update it in typical Disney fashion. More action, more empowerment, and naturally, more social commentary. Go woke. Go broke. Hollywood's biggest meltdown. In this version, the evil queen doesn't just envy her stepdaughter played by Rachel Zegler. She's now a full-blown oppressive monarch who forces all her male subjects to become soldiers. The once vibrant village it used to be full of color when Snow White's parents were alive. But now that the evil queen is in power grayscale, it's literally Pleasantville. And of course, in this version, Snow White doesn't simply ride off into the sunset with her prince anymore, because that apparently just wouldn't be progressive enough in this version. Snow White isn't just waiting for true love. She has to wake up and save the kingdom from the vain, power-hungry evil queen. Rachel Zegler brings a slight edge to the traditionally sweet Snow White. Her voice. Trump supporters celebrate Disney's failure has a distinct pop compared to what we heard in West Side Story, and while she fits the role of a Disney princess better than a Shakespearean actor might, that's about the only thing this film gets right. Galadriel, as the beautiful yet narcissistic evil queen, is oddly more entertaining here than she ever was in Wonder Woman. Her apple-clutching old lady disguise adds more personality than expected, which is a rare highlight. In an otherwise disastrous movie,